He wants to do he wants to do everything, every negative things that wealthy people do. He wants to womanize, he wants to drink alcohol, he wants to go partying, he wants to do all these things that is haram. But the unfortunate thing is just that Allah did not give him the money. So this person he has no edge, right? Because in fact, he may be sinning because the only thing preventing him from going ahead doing these things is the availability of money. His intention is that this is what I'm going to do. Like if I have access to this, well, I'm going to paint the town red, right? So you have this discussion that, of course, the Ghani Shakir is better than the poor who's just poor, so, right? But the Ghani who is the one who is rich but does not spend the money the way he ought to spend it, right? It's also not on equal footing with somebody who is patiently poor with what Allah SWT has given him. So basically, what I've said is that money is not in itself wrong, and it's actually good if it's in the hands of a person who is good. It's acquired lawfully and it's expended also lawfully. So there were people who acquired wealth. You find this in the Quran, and then it became bad for them, like Qarun, by people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. When he was poor, he was close to Musa and stuff. He got wealth and it became a problem to him. If you remember a story in Surah Al-Kahf, the story of two men, the one who had a garden, and his gardens were, he had two gardens. The gardens were bringing food and everything, and he thought that, look, with all my wealth, I don't think that this would even perish. This is eternal. I've got a lot of people, successful people, who also have this feeling. They think it's their intellect, they think it's their luck, they think it's their connections that brought them this well. But ultimately, always is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if wealth is acquired properly and expended properly, is a good thing. We also have in the Quran of people who are wealthy. Dawood alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam. Sulaiman prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the kingdom and dominion you're going to give to me, don't give to anybody else. Rabbi habli mulkan la yambagi li ahadim min ba'di. Oh Allah, give me dominion. And that's why nobody can have the dominion, the wealth that Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam had. Did he worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Of course he did. So you see, there is no specific rule that is attached to wealth. So your intention would make it either compulsory on you to acquire wealth, or impermissible for you to acquire wealth. That's that about that. Secondly, there are certain things that you must have that wealth, right? It's compulsory, right? Your basic needs. You have this hierarchy of is it needs or wants? Is this Maslow's hierarchy? I've forgotten how the man put it. But you have that hierarchy also in Islam. You have things that are needs, you have things that are wants, you have things that are luxuries. Needs, wants, luxury. So you have basic needs. That basic needs, it is compulsory on you to work and acquire it. Right. So remember the story of Adam and the shaitan, I think in Surah Taha. And then Taha is where this came up. Allah told Adam, he said, Ya Adam, inna hada adu laka wa li zawjik. Fala yukhrijannakuma min al-jannati fatashqa. Oh Adam, this shaitan is an enemy to you and your wife. Do not allow him to take you out of Jannah fatashqa. The shakawa there, right, is not ordinarily we translate as being unfortunate, as being the Yoruba word will be oribu. At times the Yoruba word brings the real sense of this thing in a very, very literal way. So, but the shakawa, so most times shakawa is used for one going into the hellfire. I don't know how do I mean that. But in this context, it was used differently. Allah explained what is shakawa. That because he was telling, do not allow shaitan to take you out of Jannah. Because in Jannah you have everything you need. Basic needs. Because in Jannah you will not be hungry, you will not be naked. You will not be thirsty, and you will not need to labor under the sun. You will not be exposed to the elements. What does that tell you? As a student of economics, right? You get the feeling in economics you talk about these needs. These are the basic human needs of every human being: food, water, shelter, clothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was addressing Adam in those verses. That look, if you lose Jannah, you lose all these things. And if you go on earth, you're going to need to acquire all of these things. So money that is meant for you to acquire these things is compulsory on you. I wajib and ainan is compulsory on you, particularly the men. So even though you have scholars who said that, look, when Allah SWT was going to start addressing Adam in that verse, he addressed both of them. Inna hada adu laka wa lizawjika fala yukhrijannakuma both of you min al-jannati fatashqa. So that you then after that the address was to Adam. ذلك لا تجوع فيها ولا تعرى. So you'll not be hungry, neither will you be naked. Adam was being addressed now. Primary responsibility of finance is on the man. It's a primary responsibility of providing for himself, for his family is on the man. So provision of these things, getting money to work for this is not an issue of this world. It is no, it's compulsory. That if you don't do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the right to punish such an individual. Because we don't want people to go out begging. And then when you acquire a wife, it's compulsory on you to fend for your wife. Provide the same thing: food, water, clothing, shelter. When you have children, the same thing. So there's a man's burden as there's a woman's burden. So wealth acquisition at this level is compulsory. Above that, like, yes, you're satisfied. You've got a roof on your head. You've got food on your table. You're satisfied with all this. Should you want more? Should you want variety of food? Should you want a beautiful house? All of these are not in any way impermissible. Al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayat dunya. If I have the money to buy a cyber truck, I don't like the car, I would buy it. If there's a need for it, I have the money, I would buy it. Because Sharia has not made anything impermissible for us outside of what is haram. Right? In as much as not wasteful spending, and there's a legitimate need for it, there's nothing wrong in wanting more. So scholars will say that it's noble if you actually even want to do more sadaqat, assist more people. Those are one of the reasons why you should even strive to acquire this. What is the rule on this? The rule on this is that it is mustahab. Mustahab if you need to acquire wealth, right? More so as to be able to do those things that are highly recommended. And then we have, should you go for luxury? Yes, also it's not wrong, but on this the rule is not that of compulsion. It's not obligatory again, because what is obligatory is what we've talked about. Spending, providing, this obligation. That which is highly encouraged is charity, and also having satisfying your wants, building masajid, and then um if you want more, then that is just permissible. It's not in any way compulsory or recommended. So now, having said that what is not in itself impermissible, right? It can even be compulsory depending on your circumstances. Scholars tell us, like Ibn Juzay says, that we have three. I talked about your means of acquisition and your means of spending it. Those are the things that will make the acquisition of money good for you. Before I go to this, so okay, I'll talk about this. Then there's a point, so I won't miss it. Right. We all know Abdurrahman ibn Auf, so I'm not talking about Abdurrahman ibn Auf. So, Ibn Juzay had a very short article in his book Al-Qawanin al-Fiqhiyya, where he said, "Al-Ma'murat wal-Manhiyat al-Muta'alliqa bil-Amwal," obligations and prohibitions attached to wealth. So I'm going to that now. That how you acquire the wealth is important. How you want to spend it is important. That is what will determine your drive to acquire this wealth, right? So there was what I wanted to refer to earlier, and so I was coming back to it, was this story of Urwa al-Bakiri. Urwa al-Bakiri was sent by the Prophet ﷺ to go buy a goat, and he gave him 1 dinar. And then Urwa, being an astute businessman, got to the market and bought 2 goats with a dinar. Got to the market, he could argue a new business, he knew it was cheap. And he got 2 goats for a dinar. Ordinarily, if it was me, I'll be very happy that I got two goats for the price of one because I don't have a business sense. So it's not I'm not insulting I'm not insulting myself. We see people are gifted in different ways. Some people are naturally gifted with business. That type of person is Urwa al-Bakiri. Some people are very gifted in the act of war. You read any story of Khalid bin Walid and you see the way he strategizes on the battlefield in the midst of action, of blood and cries, and you see the way he strategizes. Okay, this man is actually very gifted in war. So Urwa al-Bakiri was very gifted with business. So he got two goats for the price of one. He didn't run homes screaming that I got two goats for the price of one. No, he sold one of the goats for a dinar, right? So he got the money and he got the goat. And he went back home and said, Ya Rasulullah, hada shatuk wa hada dinaruk. Oh, Messenger of Allah, this is your goat, this is your dinar. Messenger of Allah said, what? How did you do it? And he explained. And Messenger of Allah blessed him. If wealth were to be um, impermissible in itself, or if profit making was to be impermissible in itself, in all of this, Urwa did not cheat anybody, did not lie. He was just good with business, right? The Messenger of Allah would have condemned him. The Messenger of Allah did not condemn him. He prayed for him. It is said as an hyperbole that if Urwa gathered sand in Medina, he would sell it, right? And it's not something strange. Somebody who has that business sense. Hello, can you guys hear me?
No, yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay.
Loud.
Yeah, somebody who has that business sense, right? You realize that yeah, is good with business. So wealth is like I was discussing with a group of brothers yesterday in our evening hadith class in the mosque, and then one of the hadith I read was the hadith of Salman Al Farisi and Abu Darda. The Messenger of Allah made them brothers. You know, when the Muhajirun came to Medina, he made brothers between the Muhajirun and the Ansar. Salman was made the brother of Abu Darda. Then Salman went to visit Abu Darda one day, and then he met Darda, and then she was mutabaddila. That was the word found in the hadith. Mutabaddila. She was shabby, and then he asked, "Mabiki, what's wrong with you?" And then she said, "Abu Darda la sha'an lahu fi dunya." How come I can't? He has no interest in this world. And this is why I'm bringing this up. A lot of young people who turn to piety and in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the midst of a lot of young people who are not even interested in religion at all, there are people out there, millions of them, who have no reason, they are not interested in anything religious at all. So those who are religious, the tendency to just want to drop anything dunya, particularly if you just listen to one hot iman lecture. So no, I don't want to do anything with this dunya. And then you may read some of the hadith that talks about the fact that you need to, even verse of the Quran, you know, where Allah was saying that واعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. It's just acquisition of wealth and children. كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما في الآخرة عذاب شديد ومغفرة من الله ورضوان وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. This world is just deceiving enjoyment. ألهاكم التكاثر, seeking for so much for wealth. As a person may listen to this lecture or lectures of this nature and fail to contextualize what is being said. Money is not being condemned in itself in those verses. Rather, acquiring it in haram way and not being grateful in expending it was being condemned. So the tendency for one to just say that no, I don't want to work again. I just want to be worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it's or, or a very clear, like give a very direct example. So you do tahajjud, right? You tahajjud, and you feel that no, that's 11 rakah that I want to do. I want to be using my tahajjud for 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 muraja'a. And then you next day you go to the office and on your you sleep when you're supposed to be working, right? So it's haram. This your tahajjud is not supposed to be done because tahajjud ultimately is nafila, and you fulfilling your obligation to your boss is what is compulsory on you. So the tendency for young religious people to misapply the fact that the world is not to be sought after is very high. So let me finish with the story of Abu Darda and Salman. So when Umar Darda told him, and he said, "Akhaka la sha'na lahu fi din," I don't want anything to do with this world. Yasumun Nahar is always fasting, always nawafil. Then Salman was going to spend the night there. And then Abu Darda came, prepared food for him, and said, "Cool, you eat." So what about you? He said, "I'm fasting and starting." This hadith is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. And Salman said, "No, I'm not going to eat until you eat." So they ate together. And then it was time for sleep. Abu Darda stood up. He wants to perform Nawafi. So no, 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 you have to sleep. He woke up again, probably in the middle of the night. Salman insisted, "You have to sleep," until it was the later part of the night. Salman said, "No, you cannot stand up." Right? And then and then Salman told him, and it's this very golden. He said, "Inna li rabbika alayka haqqan." Your Lord has a right on you. Wa inna li nafsika alayka haqqan. Your soul, yourself, your body has a right on you. Wa inna li ahlika alayka haqqan. And your family, your wife have a right on you. You cannot drop your family at home and say that you are going for dawah. And they tell you that what have you left for them? And tell you that the Sahaba Kiram, they also left their family without anything. No, no, you would be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have not sent you a dawah that you leave your family begging, destitute, and then in financial pain. So it's very important. Our Lord has a right in us, and it's worship. We have rights on spending on ourselves, taking care of ourselves, our health, and everything that has to do with ourselves. So also our family, our wives and children. I once had a bad experience of a brother who joined a particular group. This was a brother who was where he was working fine. Then he joined the Dawa group, started going on outings. Ultimately, he felt that his work was blocking outing. He resigned. First thing was the fact that paying school fees became difficult, right? And then out of the girls I taught that year, his daughter was the one that got pregnant out of wedlock. And these are shocking things. That's all the what dawa are you doing if your immediate family is not even benefiting? You even have to start from your immediate family. That was how the Prophet Islam started. When Allah said, "Kum fa'anzir," the verse that follows, Allah says, or was it the one that came before? "Wa'anzir ashiratakal aqrabin." Start your warning from your family that are close to you, right? So one should not have a misconception about the acquisition of wealth. If you properly acquire it and you spend it judiciously, wealth is very good. So we have three things that are obligations about wealth, and we have three things that are prohibitions. The first is that we must have zuhd. Zuhd is that we should not be excessively greedy. Greed is a major problem. A legitimate acquisition of wealth is not greed. They are two different things. You see, particularly if you work in the corporate world or in the finance world, where people are only interested in exploiting you, exploiting your life, right? That you have to understand the difference between greed and having a natural inclination for acquiring wealth. When your passion for acquiring wealth knows no moral boundaries, when there is no ethical framework to the acquisition of wealth, you lose zut. And then you fall into the opposite, which is hirs, greed, inordinate desire to just acquire wealth for wealth's sake. May Allah protect us from this. And then the next one is al-wara. Al-wara and zud are very close to each other. Al-wara means that a very cautious attitude. You avoid haram and you are cautious about where you are acquiring this money from, right? So it's compulsory to have a law, and it's prohibited for you to just acquire money anyhow. So they say they're doing pork business. Say, it's selling. You want to put your money there as a Muslim. What are you doing with pork? Or they said, oh, the interest based banking, their shares are very lucrative. You want to put our money there. What are you? You're not supposed to be found there, right? We must not allow the fact that um we need wealth to blind us from the reality of what is halal and what is haram. And then the last one is al infaq, spending of this world. You must spend. If you have money, you must spend. If you have money and you want to just because I mean some people would have a healthy passion for acquiring money. When it comes to spending, it becomes a problem. What do the Lagosians call this? It's called akagon. So they have super glue in their hands. They can't put their hands in their pockets. You have to spend. Spending money is compulsory. You have to spend for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is zakah. Allah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَهَا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَبَشِّرْهُم بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Those who are always storing gold and silver, وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَهُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, and who spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give them tidings for painful punishment. The next verse was very brutal, saying, telling us what will happen to them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So you have to spend your the money that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has thrown into your covers by giving zakat, by spending on your wife, by spending on your children. When you spend on your wife, the Messenger of Allah said, every morsel you put into the mouths of your wife or your children, you get rewarded. Right? You if you intend that, oh, I'm fulfilling Allah's obligation, you get rewarded. Then all the scholars, with the exception of the very few, will tell you that if you cannot feed your wife, right, she has every right to demand a talak. The marriage will be nullified. Those who say the marriage should not be nullified will tell you that you have no control over her to stay indoors again if you cannot provide for your wife. For a wife. So it's not something that it's taken with levity. A Muslim by default should be industrious, right? So you are industrious, you take care of the halal and haram, then you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah make it easy for us. So how many more minutes do I have?
Now, about 15 minutes, sir.
About 15 minutes. So I still have quite a lot of time. Okay. So when we talk about al-wara, one has to have knowledge of the halal and the haram. Right? You must know what is halal and haram. It's very funny when Muslims go into transactions, then they come and ask me later, what do you think about this? This is why people are losing money in CBEX, in MMM, in all this nonsense. There were people who actually came to me to ask after CBEX, right? And my even then I had not studied it. My response was, don't put your money there. Don't put your money there until I looked at it and said, yes, this thing is actually a fraud. People are still putting their money in all of these nonsense things. Started with Wonder Banks, all this nonsense that people are doing. Before you start a business, ask people about the ruling on the business. What is the ruling? What has Allah said about this? Those things are to protect us, honestly. Because if a business is Sharia compliant, yes, you may not make profit, but you will not lose money. Like you not lose money like people lost money in CBS and they are trying to kill themselves. They're going suicidal, right? That will not happen, right? So you must learn the halal and the haram, and then there is what is the mushtabihat. Messenger of Allah said, "Innal halala bayyin, wa innal harama bayyin, wa baynahuma umurun mushtabihat, la ya'lamuhunna kathirun minan nas." They are mushtabihat. Your sense of wara, of being cautious about acquisition, must get to the point that if something is doubtful, you avoid it. If something is doubtful, you avoid it. Somebody says she cannot or he cannot hear any voice. I hope this is local and it's not everybody. Is it everybody? Okay,
Yes,
so
it's local.
so it's a local thing, brother or sister, as the case may be. So now we would come to the point of spending. That's the second, the last one. Al-azud wadiduhu al-hirs. That we should not inordinately seek for money. And then the opposite that is prohibited is greed. Second one is wara. Being cautious about where you want to acquire money. It must be in halal alone. And then the opposite is not caring where you get the money from. And the last one is al-infaq. Spending this money. There are rules also for spending money, right? One of it is compulsory. وَالْبُخْلُ بِهِ haram. For you to refuse to spend. Allah says, وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Whosoever is protected from the stinginess of his own soul, these are the successful ones. So it's a serious thing, right? You acquire the money, you also must spend it judiciously. You can say that, well, I mean, when I was acquiring the money, where were these guys when I was acquiring it? You must spend judiciously. So those aspects where it is haram for you to be stingy is number one, zakat. You have to give zakat. I tell people that, look, some of these things, We will not preach zakat to you in an Islamic state. The way the government takes tax, everybody will just take your money without you know. That's the way we take zakat, right? So you have to give zakat 1/40, and Muslims, may Allah overlook our shortcomings. Christians pay a tenth on all income, not savings, all income. And some of you guys who are friends who are Christians, even if you give them money, dash them money, go take a tenth and give to the church. Muslims, you have not been required to do that. Allah says that your zakah is 1/40, not 1/10, 1/40 of money you have in your savings for a lunar year. Allahu Akbar. Not savings for a month, not savings for not income. No, but that's first thing, not income, not savings for a month, not savings for 2 months, for the savings out for an entire year. After you've paid rent, school fees, fed yourself, fed your family, fed everything, bought clothing, and you still had this money left. And not only this money got to the threshold of a nisab, right? And you had this nisab with you for an entire year. Give 1/40. Take a million naira, for instance. Take a million naira and divide it into 40, right? That will be how much? 25,000 naira. Out of a million, give 25,000 naira to those who are poor, right? You can even give to relatives if it's not compulsory on you, have an issue to spend on them. You can give zakat to your mother, you can give zakat to your father, you can give zakat to your children, you can give zakat to your wife. A wife can give her husband because it's not her status responsibility to feed her husband, right? So Allah says give zakat. So zakat is compulsory, non-negotiable. It's compulsory. If the person has met the condition, he has to give zakat. So also paying our debts. Messenger of Allah said, "Matlaq ghani dhulm." To deliberately refuse to pay debt when you have the money is a sin. It's darkness on the day of resurrection, right? Feeding our animals, right? If you keep animals, you have to feed them. If you keep a cat, keep whatsoever, you have to keep, you have to feed them. Not feeding them, the woman gets hellfire because of the cat dying out of hunger. Then this is, as I said, is compulsory. Then we have that which is mandub, which is highly recommended. Feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, freeing the slave, bina'ul masajid, building masajid. Muslims haven't really did. We've been trying, right? But we can do a lot more as come to expedition. I usually make posts once in a while after on Facebook, right? I say that, look, what you spend on your breakfast table on a day, right, would feed some people for a month, right? It's just plain truth. So we just need. So I give an example. They say the mosque I serve as the imam. When it's a story building, just one story. When I'm in the female section, because that's where we do our madrasa, I used to see a woman. I've seen her once, twice, or thrice. She goes to the dustbin, the refuse dump that the mosque has, whatever they call that container, dustbin. Anyway, she goes there and she rummages through them. I felt bad about her several times because if I try to call her from the window I'm looking at her, I may spook her. I mean, she may get embarrassed, right? And at the same time, before I say I want to get down, she would have left. There are people who would rummage through what we throw away. What we throw away as leftovers are meals for some people. Meals for some people. I know people. For one reason or the other, I know people who are very wealthy, and then I'm also exposed to people who are excruciatingly poor, very poor people. And I used to wonder that these things are easily solved, right? I think probably I'm idealistic, right? I think I'm idealistic and too altruistic about it, but I think that Muslims can do a lot more. One thing I've been saying over time is that why can't we have a we pull our resources together, we create a money-making venture, right? That this money-making venture is going to run itself financially. It's going to be properly audited. It's going to run like any other business, right? But whatever comes as proceeds from this will be used to help people. This will serve as sadaqah to jariyah for those who invest in it, and to serve as a very great opportunity to assist people in society. There's satisfaction when you're able to assist people, right? Apart from the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated us, advised, encouraged us. Allah says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. They feed out of, even with the love they have for food, miskin and the poor, وَيَتِيمًا and the orphan, وَأَسِيرًا and even the captive. And then when they feed people, when they make these expenses, they say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. The reason why we are doing it is just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نُرِيدُ مِنكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We don't want to thank you. We don't want you to pay us back. It's not for thawab, it's for jaza. We are doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to also strive to make this type of an expenditure. It's Amul Ja'i, feeding the poor, Kiswatul Uryan, clothing the naked, Alf Dawab, taking care of our animals, no, Itkur Riqab, setting slaves free. Setting slaves free may not is not in slavery is not in vogue these days. There are people who are still bound to poverty. I saw a clip some days ago that went viral. I didn't look at it. I've not watched the clip completely, but I sort of got the gist of it. Where a guy just was going randomly around and he bought an equipment for a guy, and the guy was weeping and crying. It's like that. It's like that. I've once been approached by a guy who said he doesn't need money. He just wants somebody that would buy uh, this organizer machine for him. But me myself, I do not have. So Muslims just have to do this. And one of the best ways of spending is spending on those who are close to us, our relatives. It's all because when we spend on our relatives, we are doing two things. We are combining two good. We are spending the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we should spend. We are tying the ties of kinship. So money is not evil, it's not in itself evil, and poverty is not inherently piety. Poverty is not piety. There are two different things. If Allah made us poor, which is a possibility, we will pray against it, but if Allah has not said you're not going to be rich, you're not going to be rich. There's nothing you can do about it, right? If there's poverty and we are patient, Allah will reward us. But to take poverty as an act of worship or to refuse to work is a bid'ah, heresy that Umar ibn Khattab will flog people because of. And then what are you doing? And we are doing Afar work. What is Afar work? Islam, and people are going to be giving you money, all this nonsense that people are doing. I will pause here and take questions if there are any. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If there are none, I would like to take my leave. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's say Jazakallah khairan, and let's make dua for him. Like, mashallah, he has done really, really good justice to the topic we put. He has brought a lot of personality to me, a lot of questions to my mind, like, but especially questioning my own status quo and in terms of the way I deal with wealth, the way my mindset to wealth, and how much I give back to the community. But inshallah, before we take questions, I'm just really shortly going to talk about the project 1K from my area after that sponsored, like, that brought about this state and finance program. So the idea about 1K from my area after is two things. Number one, we want to invest in our akhirah, just like the same way we invest in our dunya. We want something that, even though Allah has not made, like, we've not made a lot of money, but with the little we have, we want to build a sadaqah jariyah for ourselves. And the idea is, if a well costs 350,000, and about 350 of us can come together and donate 1K every month. In a year, we're able to donate to wealth for sadaqah jariyah for ourselves. And also, the second one is also to the people receiving it. We want to see, like, the status quo of the Muslim Ummah, like the community, like in an improved state. And inshallah, we are hoping that as much as people continue to donate and support this project, we're able to make much more impact. So I'm going to drop the link for anybody who wants to check out the project and also subscribe. Like we have like a subscription based model. You can subscribe 1K for my hereafter or 2K. And inshallah, at some point, we want to do 1 million for my hereafter. Not because Nigerian currency is so devalued, but because now, alhamdulillah, the Muslims in our community are so rich and they are as much willing to give back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also invest in their akhirah. So that's why we are hoping that we get to 1 million for my lifetime. That's why we are also organizing sessions like this to sensitize us about why we need to make money the halal way within what is permissible for us and also to give back to Islam. Now, inshallah, I'm going to take questions now. So, okay, the first question that we have here, the person said, at what amount can you say you can now start paying zakah? Now,
Now,
sure.
Assalamu alaikum. So basically,
Alaikum.
I think we have gold, we have silver. The last I checked, I think um gold was around 8 something million, silver was around 1 point something million. I'm not sure. I mean, send it later. So around, if you've got 2 million, right, for from Muharram to the next Muharram, and then it's with you after your rent, after your clothing, feeding, everything, you still got 2 million with you. You are liable to give zakat. It should be slightly below 2 million using the silver standard. So at that time, yeah, zakat becomes compulsory. Well, I would get the actual figure after this class, inshallah.
All right. Now, just like my friend. Another question here is the person said, I think the main issue on people falling into this fraud business is because there are very limited avenues to learn about Islamic finance. Can you share resources to learn about it or how we go about it?
Well, you see, I work in Islamic finance about to a degree, not so much, but to a degree. And then the niche I work in is just advisory, right? So, there are Islamic fintech companies that we can liaise with. There are even some of the banks. I know Lotus does it. World Bank does it. So we can explore this also. They have this on their apps. Maybe ask us what type of business that we want to put our money. So the only thing is just that even for them, ask somebody to help you research on them. Right now, having said these two things, one of the major problems of doing business amongst ourselves is trust. Right? There are a lot, and this section, right, or this sector, even the majority of the corporate institutions in Islamic finance are not looking at it. That level of medium to small scale business people, right? This is a gold mine if you find somebody who's trustworthy. People who are making sales on a daily basis. So if you can create an avenue whereby we would mitigate risk, yeah, and then maximize trust, those are areas that we can invest. The fact of the matter is that Nigeria has a lot of investment opportunities. So let me give an example. The time that Glo came around, people were saying that, oh, the communication network is saturated. What else do they want to do? Glo came and had very massive impact on the system. So look around, there's this I don't know if I should call it a convenience store or what I'm going to say. Boku came around with a style that was just like difference. Everything that they're not selling everything. What they sell is everyday item that is needed in the home. And of course, I've not seen their financials, I'm not seeing their financial people, but definitely they are growing at a very high pace. They're on the island now, right? And then their things are relatively cheaper than others. And trust Nigerians, if it is 1 naira, they'll go and patronize it. So this was a business that was already there was already in this type of business.
Now, someone can check.
Walaikum salam.
We are struggling with your audio. So I think it's a global thing.
So let me go out and come back in, maybe to be better.
All right. Now.
Assalamu alaikum.
And Walaikum Salam, it's clear now.
It's clear. Okay. So I was talking about Boku, that you had ShopRite, you had Adide already in this type of business. You had your roadside supermarkets and stuff. And it came in, they made a rule. So there's always business opportunity in a place like Nigeria. And I think that medium to small scale businesses are one of those areas that we can really, really, really invest in. But we need funds, we need trust, we need what's it called? We need models with which we can run such. So I don't think that investment opportunities are that rare, but it's the what's it called? The interest, the spirit, and then the resource persons who are there, who are going to be there to assist us. That's what is missing. Allah knows best.
So Ade John Taiwo, you raised your hand. Do you still have a question? Walaikum Salam wa rahmatullah. John Taiwo speaking. Your audio is not clear.
No, someone come to hear me now.
Yes, I can.
Now, my question is: I said for salary earners that probably receive monthly salary, right? So, and then is actually willing to pay zakat. So now the salary might not probably be that much, but it's actually something you can actually sacrifice some amount of money from. Like, is it permissible for that person to divide probably salary to 40, like, and then probably contribute a bit to zakat on a monthly basis? I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Do
Yeah, I
you
get
can
you. Yeah, I
now?
get you. So there's
Now,
there are certain scholars who hold this view that zakat can be given on salaries, right? So I'm not convinced with their arguments, right? So I don't think that it should be zakat on salaries, right? Unless you already have the nisab, right? Your money is already you already have the nisab and you want to give early. I'm not even I don't even support much the giving of early giving it early. The earliest I can support is probably when you're about 11 months into your zakat year. So if you want to do anything at all, if you don't have savings up to this for a year, just know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not ask for zakat. So rather do sadaqat, do a lot of sadaqat. So you can divide by 40, you can divide by whatever you like. So but it will not be with the intention of zakat, that will be the intention of sadaqah. Allah.
Okay. I,
example.
I have I have someone that asked me a question, even though I've tried my best to answer it, but the person is here, so I would like you to explain even better. The person said, since we already pay tax, like they're even already removing a lot of money from us, is it still necessary for us to even pay zakat again?
Yeah. The tax is not zakah. And you can't give part of your zakah as tax, right? Your tax is what you owe the government. The zakah is what you owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after your tax, please pay zakah.
No, no, just wait for my time. We really have to share.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has any question before we round up.
So inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala, if there is any question, you can send it through Ayatollah. I would also halal stocks in Nigeria. Okay. Is it it's a bit difficult to answer. So basically, you have halal companies like Dangote who deals in oil and gas, cement, Nestle, who do non-alcoholic beverages and stuff. So this on the surface, these companies are actually good, right? So, but one other problem we have with them is that when after our quantitative is it quantitative or qualitative screening, you realize that if you look at their financials, their balance sheets, their cash flow, you realize that they have money in the bank, fixed deposits, or they have loans that they are servicing. And you buying their stock means that you're a joint owner of the fixed deposit or the fixed deposit, right? So which makes it problematic. So um I tell people that look, if you've got other choices of investment, go for them. If you have if you are not if you are not left with any other choices than this, that is only when you should go for them. And you must make sure that if you get dividends, you must calculate the amount of your dividends is based on loans, on interest, and then expunge it. We call this purification process. So that's what I would just say briefly about stocks. Allahu Alam. Um, it's been a pleasure being with you guys. If there are
If you don't mind, we still have like two more questions here. The
Okay,
person
let's
said,
take it two more, inshallah, I'll call it today. Inshallah.
okay, somebody said, is the money invested zakatable, and must we take zakat in cash, or we can convert into goods or commodities? What are
Okay,
the other halal forms of investment aside stocks?
okay. So you can't give zakat as goods. Like let's say you sell beverages and say, okay, oh, come and take your zakat, 3 things of Milo. No, you can't do that. So you have to give it in cash. However, there are certain other items that you have to give zakat from. Like if you run livestock like cattle, camels, cow, goats, you have to give zakat from them. You've got 5 heads of camel, 30 heads of cattle, 40 heads of goat. You have to give zakat from this stuff in itself. If you work in agric, right, there are certain things, certain types of um crops that you have to give zakat on. It's crops like rice, beans, that which is staple food and storable. So those you give zakat on. So those you give zakat from them. But all others you have to give zakat from the money. Now it depends on when you say zakat on investment, it depends on the type of investment you are doing. If you are investing in farming, you don't give zakat on the money, you give zakat on. Okay, so it's my car alarm, sorry. So you give zakat on the on your farm crops at harvest. If you run livestock like camel, cow, you give zakat on them. You got investment. If you got investment in services, like you have a bus or you have a building that is being used for hotel, there's no zakat on your bus. There's no zakat on your building. There's no zakat on that, right? If you got stocks, right, there's zakat on your stock, and it's on the money you would calculate what it's worth. So that's just a brief discussion about zakah. And then there was a question that what other investment apart from stock? There are a lot of investments, particularly buying and selling. Right, you just need to also make efforts and get that. There was a time I wanted to be running um, a small stuff. It just take most of my time, whereby people with need will come through me, and then people who've got the cash, because that's what finance is all about. It's about cash flow. When cash flows from people who have access to people who are needy of it, yeah, finance has happened, right? So I was gonna act like sort of meeting point. So that I just stopped along the way because of my own time and some other things. So there will always be people with needs. You just need to verify their trustworthiness, and then you put your money, make your profit, and move away. People make a lot of money from things like this. Most times, um, a lot, a lot of sectors that people don't focus on is where the real money is. Allahu Akbar.
No, I'm Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh. We really appreciate you coming today, and may Allah bless the knowledge you've shared with us.
I mean,
May Allah reject for us and not against us. Jazakumullah khairan. We really, really appreciate Allah. Personally, me, I've learned a whole lot from the conversation so far. And I also, everyone has also learned one or two from what you have shared with us. May Allah reward you and may Allah reward us too. So,
I mean,
Sheikh, you can exit.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah. So Jazakumullah khairan everyone for coming today. We genuinely appreciate you, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you for coming. And we also want to inform you that we plan to make this a monthly thing. So we encourage you to look out for the February one. If you didn't register and you got a link from someone, please ask the person to share the registration link so that you can register. What this does for you is it gives us an opportunity to share like the next session with you, inshallah, so that even if you don't come across the invitation, you are able to benefit from it. And lastly, we also have a group for those who might want to join. We also have a group where we share follow-ups and you can also ask questions, inshallah. Now, Jazakumullah khairan, and that's it from us today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا.
آمين وأنتم جزاكم الله خيرا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.